We cannot underestimate the power of the bacon sandwich.
In a world desperate to tear itself apart, only one man, and some other people, stand in the way of total destruction. Together they will right the wrongs, make bad good, and single-handedly destroy evil, together. Who is this man, you may ask? This man is Geoff.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Geoff Jones and Friends Make It Better. The show that takes one of life's little annoyances, gives him a microphone, a podcast and a guest, and a massive ego to quite simply believe that he can make everything better. Today, I'm absolutely delighted to be joined by, author and, as I've just found out, jack of all trades, Moz Perkins. Moz, how are you?
I'm okay, thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. So delighted you've been here. And we've just in this kind of little preamble we do before starting record, we just found out that, previous guest, Jay Saunders and Gabe, they were on the previous episode as well. But anyway, look, Moz, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate your time. Please tell me, what is it that we're making better today?
Well, I'm going to talk to you about, in my world, three things that challenge my mental health and well-being. One, arguably, I should have known about. One was a complete surprise, and one was pre-planned and premeditated.
Well, I am absolutely all ears. I mean, hey, kick us off.
Okay, so the starting point, I guess, was 2016. I've always been a busy person. I do lots of things. I get involved in things. I volunteer for things. And in 2016, I was asked to lead the biggest tender for the highest value bid I'd ever worked on. It was £2.1 billion contract. That was the ODU value. Reality is about £1 million, £1.5 million, I think, will flow through to the contractor. And it was really, really difficult. We did something called competitive dialogue, and we had to keep appearing in Cambridge 3-4 times a week to discuss various matters. I live in Stockport, so it was a fairly difficult time for me being away from home. My daughter and daughter-in-law were both having difficult pregnancies. And then in my kind of social recreational life, I was the chairman of a football club, sharing a ground with a rugby club. We had 3 pitches, they had 3 pitches. We did a big investment. We got £1 million in grants and funding of various things and delivered a big upgrade to the changing rooms in the clubhouse. And then the rugby club decided they wanted it for themselves. And so we went into litigation. So I was doing the litigation in the evenings and weekends, trying to keep an eye on my family, and then doing this bid. And it was pretty challenging. But as we came through into 2017, we had 2 wonderful grandsons born, and they're beautiful little boys. They're 6 years old now. And we'd won the bid. It was like, yeah. and it was a 10-year plus 5-year contract, fantastic piece of work. And we'd reached an agreement with the rugby club. So we took that challenge on between us, and essentially the rugby club was going to the football club was going to run the facility for a period of time. And everything was fine and dandy. And I was actually on my way into Manchester to attend a meeting. My next project was going to be leading business development work in Manchester. And I didn't feel too great on the way in. It was a bit weird. And afterwards, some friends said, yeah, you weren't very good on the phone call. And I didn't even remember the phone call. Sat in this meeting, had a cup of tea, and then I felt myself being faint. I thought, I'm feeling sick. I thought, being first aid trained, I'll lie down, put my knees up. And my memory of the event is, I'm there in my suit, and I lay on the floor and drew my knees up and fell asleep. And I woke up about 8 hours later in a hospital with my wife sat next to me and a doctor over me. And I was going, I said, what's going on here? And I said, I'm not answering that question. I've answered it all afternoon. And I'd been in hospital for about 5 hours, and I had something called global transient amnesia. And you have no memory, and you have no way of making new memories. And the doctor tried to explain to me, I didn't take it on board as well as my wife did. It was only afterwards when I was piecing things together. And he said, I think it's called something called global transient amnesia, and it's usually brought on by stress. And I never felt stressed. I honestly never felt stressed in all the different things I was doing. But then my wife said, but I've been telling you for ages to slow down. My friends in the football club said, well, we've been telling you you're taking too much. And friends at work said, you've been taking on too much and doing too much. So I wasn't listening to them. So They did tell me, and that's the thing that arguably I should have known about, but I didn't, you know. And the thing that was a surprise was, as a result of being poorly and being off work a long time, my memory went, and it took about 6 months before my memory started to piece back together again, which I thought I was in denial. I thought there was something wrong.
Did piece back the memory of that day, or kind of previous? Was it kind of you just could not piece back together what happened that day, or leading up to it?
So it was that day in particular. So there's about 8 hours I'll never be able to remember. Snapshots. That's about the best way to describe it. But for the next 6 months, there were things that I knew, but I couldn't remember them. People's names, numbers. So prior to that, I was a project director, and then I'd become a bid director. Yeah, you're responsible for budgets, big numbers, and I became dyslexic to numbers, and even to this day now, 6 years on, when I write a phone number down, and that's why I was looking carefully at the things. Have I done something wrong here? Because I don't trust my memory like I used to do. Never been dyslexic with numbers. I've been dyslexic a little bit with words, and then that became more amplified as a result of this occurrence. But I thought there was something wrong, and I had to sit down with the doctor, and he showed me everything. Your heart, your lungs, all of these things are telling me you're in great nick. The neurologist said, your MRI scans for your brain, everything's showing well. So we've eliminated all of these other things that it could have been, and it's down to stress. So, what did I learn from that? One, for me, it was about not taking on too much. Well, probably I still do a little bit of that, but I don't take on too much. But the other one is listen to your friends and family. And probably the third one is if I notice somebody not well, I will ask them, and I will listen very, very carefully to what they've got to say, because when we don't listen ourselves, and sometimes, how are you today? Yeah, I'm great, and you walk away. Well, actually, you're not great, because you don't look great, and you answer me that quite flippantly. So I've made it a policy of, when I say to somebody, how are you? And they say, I'm okay, or they say, I'm great, I'm looking for the physical responses going with the words. And if I don't think it matches, then I'll go, do you want a chat? Do you want a cup of tea? Because if somebody else had done that to me and maybe been a bit more forceful, maybe I wouldn't have had that episode. I don't know.
And anyone who's kind of listened to this podcast knows that I am a huge kind of advocate for mental health conversations in all forms, and it's because it just constantly amazes me. Well, on several occasions, several different ways. One of them being just how the brain does what it does. And I mean, so what was the amnesia?
It's called global transient amnesia.
So never heard of it, but this is the brain's. I'm assuming, and maybe I've shed a bit more light. Says this is the brain, your brain's way of dealing with what's happening, and it's a way of dealing with stress. So you break an arm, you feel it's broken, and you're dangling there. Your brain has chosen this way to react to everything that's going on.
The neurologist said, think of it like your brain's acting as a fuse, and instead of just go backtrack one. People who were in the meeting actually saw me walking around the room outside in the reception. They took me to what they could have said an NHS walk-in centre. It was actually a blood donor centre just off Market Street in Manchester. And on the way there, I collapsed, and that's did L999 and got an ambulance for me. And the paramedics thought I was having a heart attack or a stroke, because all of the symptoms I displayed were along those lines. And what the neurologist said was, your brain gave up like a fuse to stop the appliance from burning out, to stop my heart going or anything else.
Yeah.
And that's the way to look at it. And he also said, you'll never get those memories back. So don't even try and worry about it. You won't get that day back. I have 4 snapshots. One of them was, I can remember being in the ambulance, blues and twos going, and the paramedic had opened my shirt and was shaving my chest to put these electrodes on. And he said, I've sorry, I've got to shave your chest. I said, okay. And the other one was, I was being slid into an MRI scanner, and the nurse put this clip on my finger, and she said, and there's a button there. If you're feeling distressed, press the button. And I don't think they got me in the MRI scan before I pressed the button.
I mean,
So it's
for somebody who
incredibly.
can't remember what's going on, the whole situation must be must be pretty scary.
And then, and
Anyway,
then, and then the next memory was when I started to come round. But for me, lessons are when you ask somebody how they are, or if you think their behaviour is odd, do something about it. That would be my key message: is don't let things pass you by and think that was a bit odd. Well, it's odd because that person might be going through a challenge, and it could be physical, might not be mental. It could be they could be having a stroke. You know.
it is, and do you know when it comes to and you are right, and I love the fact that you now take the moment to actually listen, because that what you said then with the, "Hi, you're right, yeah, fine, cool," that's the interaction done, because it's almost like people are too afraid for an answer of, well, actually, no, because it could just be, do you know what, Amazon lost this parcel and it's Christmas or it's someone's birthday, and and you're thinking, oh, I'm stuck it, or actually it could be someone saying, I need a bit of help right now. And people can be too proud, or a lot of people are too proud to ask for help, so they do need people to say, and not being judging, not being forceful, not doing some big kind of, oh, I'm here to save the day, just saying, do you want to, should we go for a cuppa?
So, jump into where I am now. I do a lot of voluntary work, so I volunteer across a whole range of His Majesty's Armed Forces. It used to be Her Majesty's Armed Forces groups, and we have people with a variety of issues. So some people have got some quite significant physical issues. Some people have got significant mental issues, including PTSD and on other matters, and they're in difficulty. So being kind, sitting down and listening, and then doing something about it. I'm lucky that I network. I've done it ever since I was a kid. I network, so I know if I can't solve it, I know somebody who can. And even if I don't know that somebody who can, I know somebody who can direct me to somebody who can. And 6 degrees of separation, you can deploy quite quickly and get people some help if they need it, if they want it. There are some people in my network don't want to be helped, and they've made it quite clear. They'd rather just be in the bubble that they've created, and that's fine. And you have to just kind of say, okay, cool. But there are other people who don't know they need help, and like that day, as bright as I am and as smart as I am, I didn't see it coming, and I should have done. The signs were there, and I either ignored them or didn't recognise them. But other people did.
Well, you're right. That it's that recognizing piece, isn't it? So about 10 years ago, I first started, I suppose my journey of recognizing, or the breaking point of anxiety and depression. And we kind of say dealt with that at the time, learned to live with my lot. And some days sometimes are easier than others. But what I did learn to do was start learning, well, okay, actually, the direction I'm heading right now, I know is going to end up in a place that is not healthy, and it may not be something I can change, as in, it may just be work and life getting too busy, but there's certain steps you can take just to make sure. And someone who's never been through it once doesn't have those skills, because we don't talk about it enough. We're not taught how to look after ourselves mentally. There's a huge amount at the moment in all over the place, whether it's work or social media and the news. Mental health is so important, but no one's actually teaching people the skills of what to look for.
No, but I think that it's in conversation now. It's in the community now. At the time, 2017, and I was so in denial that I thought there was a physical problem. It couldn't have been stress, because I'd never get stressed. And I think it was about 6 weeks into the process, and I was having a shower, and I stood with both hands, palms on the tiles with the shower banging down, and I realised I was broken. And it was a very, 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 very sobering moment. And I cried and I couldn't stop crying for ages, because I was broken. And I was more feared about what other people thought of me.
Yeah.
And that was the issue. So that's something else about the process is pride. You touched on it before, is you're too proud to ask. Or in that case, I knew I was broken and I needed help. So that was the start of getting better. And I was accompanied by some physical issues. So I'd never had a migraine ever in my life, and I had one that lasted 6 weeks. And the medication,
Whoa.
yeah, it was horrendous. And vertigo for 6 weeks. So I was walking around the house by holding onto furniture. And we just happened to have some building work being done. We had a kitchen knocked through to a dining room, and I really couldn't do with all that either. So which kind of leads on to the second thing, because I took a long, hard look at myself. I work for a big construction company called Skanska. They're the fourth or fifth biggest in the world. They build many things. So the Gherkin, Heron Tower in London,
Right.
Dartford Flyover, things like that, big stuff. The HS2, they were, well, as far as HS2 goes, but they were very good to me. And lots of companies have policies and processes and things like that. And I know how well they dealt with me as a company and as people. And they helped me get that to work. And I did a phase return to work. But some friends who, when I came back to work, said completely different reasons. We've been looking at retirement. One guy said, it's pointless me paying anything else into my pension because I can't. It's kind of topped out, kind of thing. So I'm thinking of retiring. And then somebody else had took some advice. So I did. I thought, do I really need to work like I was, charging up and down the country and doing things? And that was, I only thought about that as a result of being poorly. So I did. I looked at it, and then the pension advice I got was, "Why are you still working?" And I said, I don't know what you mean. You can get as much money from your pension as you earn from work, but you don't have to work. Why do you work? I said, well, I like the people I work with. No, you're missing the point. You don't have to travel 35,000 to 40,000 miles a year. You can go on holidays. You can do things. Yeah. And so I did. I looked at it, and then I kind of got into the process. And by spring, I'm thinking, I'm going to retire.
Yeah.
So was on a thing called Boots on the Ground, and it was going out with your boss. Your boss went with you on a safety tour. You normally did them by yourself, and I chatted to him. And he said, that we're going to have some redundancies this year. And he said, why don't let me include you in that? And then you don't just get your pension, you get a... So
wow.
You can get that, right? And I do think sometimes that was a kind of reward for bringing the big bid in. I don't know. But I didn't feel very well when we were on this day out. And we should have gone for a drink and a bite to eat. And I said, no, I'm not 100% tonight. So if it's okay with you, I'm just going to go back to the little B&B pub thing I used to stay at. And that'll be fine. And the following day, we were at an event, and I could not settle. I actually thought I had food poisoning, and I was like peeing razor blades and pooing broken glass. I was just in bits, and I was convinced it was gastroenteritis. Managed to get home, should have gone to see the doctor, but I didn't. Waited till the Monday. By the Monday, I was climbing the walls, and it was a water infection. That's another thing, a water infection. How can it do that much damage? And then the doctor said, yeah, we'll do a litmus test and blah, blah, blah. Your PSA score's a bit high, but that's probably because of the water infection. So PSA score is positive statin analysis, and it measures your prostate cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And I went back 3 months later, and it was still as high. And then I started this process, went on a fast track, and within 9 weeks, I discovered I got prostate cancer.
Oh, no.
So that was the thing that came in left field and went, it shattered. It was quite shattering at the time. And then, like me, being a project director and you research, and I researched everything I could about prostate cancer as I was going through the process. And I elected to have something called brachytherapy. And that brachytherapy was essentially a radiation-filled seeds injected into your prostate. And over the first 3 or 4 years since that, my PSA score went right down. So we've reached the conclusion that prostate cancer isn't going to kill him. It's going to be something else. But it was a difficult process. And then I've kind of become an advocate, and I talk to people. And because it's a subject matter that most blokes don't talk about, several of my network and my friends have come forward. And one friend went for a test with no symptoms. And then his appointments were, you've seen the surgeon next Thursday.
Wow.
Yeah, now there's something to play with your mind. So I've become a kind of an informal counsellor to 4 of my network who've all developed prostate cancer. They've all gone for different solutions, but I'm happy to talk about it. And again, not everybody else is, because it helps me. It helps my mental health and well-being by talking about these things. And if I can help one other person, then I feel like I've done a good job.
Yeah, 100,000%. Because I mean, especially with prostate cancer, I love the fact that Sky Sports, they all wear the pins, and they do it because the stigma around it. But actually, it's still that kind of, I think, lack of education. Really, we're taught, lads, play with your nads, check for lumps, and women check for lumps, and all these things which are like, you touch yourself every day, you're having a wash, you're in the shower, you're clean. Like it's not as, I don't know, personal, intimate, evasive, whatever the word is. So it is still a subject that's probably avoided quite a lot.
It's still the biggest killer amongst men.
Yeah.
So of all the cancers, it's the one that kills.
My dad had it. Luckily, caught really early, treated fine, completely clear. But it is the amount of men that have it and are affected, either death or otherwise, is huge.
Yes. My cancer's been a difficult subject in my family anyway, for a long period of time. Different things. My dad is still in remission from acute myeloid leukemia, but cancer has killed most of his brothers, and it's a very difficult area. So once I knew it was there, it had to come out. My friend's dad opted to go for the watch and wait, and I've never forgot that he reached a point where it was stage 2 and then stage 3, and it was too late. It was too late to do something about it because they were doing the watch and wait thing. That had a really serious impact on the decision I took. I needed to do something there and then. One of my close friends here in Stockport elected to have surgery, the complete removal of his prostate. And when I looked at the treatments, being a project director, one of the things you do when you're on construction is you look at risk registers. And I just looked at all the risks and kind of put it on the side and looked at minimal risk to maximum risk in a kind of a rising angled drawing. And full surgery has the highest level of risk of incontinence, and that's both urinary incontinence and feces incontinence. And my friend's gone through some difficult times. He still carries a backpack with a pair of inconti pads and a pair of trousers in, just in case. For a long period of time, he had some of those really serious side effects. I'm lucky that I've not really, the side effects I've got are minuscule in comparison. But the newsreader, and I forgot the guy's name, I should have written it down beforehand, who passed away last year. Very high profile, used to do breakfast TV, and he was stage 4 when he was detected. So It's too late.
Yeah.
And there's actually another newsreader gone this year, similar thing. And there's a friend of one of my best mate has been liaising with me. He's already at stage 2. And I'm thinking, I wouldn't be mucking about. I've got to deal with it. I'd have to deal with it. That's what my head tells me. He's got to come out, kind of thing. And he's still at the stage where it's on the edge of his prostate and it's touching the bladder. So if he's not careful, stage 2 is it's out of the organ it started in, and stage 3 it's spreading. Stage 4, your body's riddled, and it's usually too late at that point. Sorry, it's not a doom and gloom thing, but it caught me by surprise, and and it came in the last kind of 3 months I was with Skanska. Skanska just like to work from home, and I work from home till year end. I needed to get year end in to get my bonus from the previous year, personal choice. But they didn't mind me, they didn't bother me. They just, once I'd done my handovers of all my projects to different people, they just kind of let me get on with it. And I've got some gratitude for that, because it took a very sensible approach. Now, I do know that not all organisations are like that.
Yeah.
So some people will not necessarily declare that they're poorly or ill because they're feared of being demoted, eased out. Companies will find different ways of getting rid of you if you're not careful. And we're kind of back in that same subject there about, can you talk about it? Well, I could, thankfully, and I'm happy to talk about it now. But I was able to, in my employ, to talk about it.
Yeah.
And especially once I got past when I was broken, I mean, I'd already kind of burst the bubble in terms of dealing with my own weaknesses in public. And again, not everybody can do that. They either haven't got the strength of character or personality, or they're more fearful of how other people will then treat them or deal with them.
Yeah, and also, as we kind of touched on earlier, not having the skills of being able to recognize what it is, what's going on, because it's scary. Like for me, 10 years ago, I was working in an extremely, it was high stress, low reward, but I don't know, poor management was a big part of it. And I remember that particular senior figure was off. I think they were moved. I think they were, they were causing a lot of problems with a lot of people. So it's kind of this secondment to a different place for a bit. And it wasn't until they left when I mentioned to the new person in charge, the temporary person in charge, that I've been struggling to get up. That whole sandbags on the chest. I remember one morning not being able to open the wardrobe to put on my work clothes and just sit in the bed. And I didn't know what I knew that how I felt was way over the top but like I shouldn't have been like that. I mean, I was having these sorts of driving down the road to work and do you know what? Like not ending it all, but would it be cool if I just got in a little bit of an accident and was in hospital for 6 weeks and just the whole world stopped? I didn't have to do anything. And I got to the office and I messaged the guy in charge and said, I need some time. I don't know what it is, but I won't be in tomorrow. And that was kind of the moment when everything came to a head, for me personally. And there needs to be more conversations about triggers, because the way I kind of listen to discussions about mental health is from people who understand what it's like, not people. This may not make sense, but because obviously that's what education is. But there's a lot of, when you're feeling stressed, do this. If you're feeling depressed, do this. If you're feeling anxious, do this. Not, this is what's going to happen as the build-up comes. Do you know what I mean? Like these is what to look for before you realize once you realize you have anxiety or depression or stress or any of these things. Once you realize it's late. Yeah, it's like you're talking about. It's getting to that stage 3. Okay, different, maybe a poor analogy, but it's by that time it's too late. We need to teach what those steps that lead up to it.
But I think it's twofold. It's for the individuals who are experiencing it firsthand. It's happening to them, but it's also to the people around you, your family, your friends, your work colleagues, and that's what I've liked the most about this last 6 years is watching organisations get better at dealing with mental health. So the company I used to work for had something called mental health ambassadors. So every team has at least 1 or 2 mental health ambassadors, and they're trained. They go on courses to look out for those triggers, to look out for behavioural.
That's really good.
It is really good. And I know many other organisations have gone down the same route, and that will help. So we talk about it, we do something about it, and we're more aware. And then the more we talk about it, the more you're going to include, hopefully, a wider audience of people going, I never thought of that. I was asked to go, when I worked at Skanska, I was asked to speak at 2 conferences. One was, if you don't mind me saying it, a room full of airy-ass contractors, all roughy toughies. And I said, I'm going to talk to you today about 3 different things that challenge my mental health and well-being. So, but first I'll talk to you about me. And I talked about me being the kid that climbed trees and jumped out of trees and climbed buildings and ran along scaffolding and did all sorts of crazy things. And I wanted to go in the forces. I wanted to go in the Army or the Navy or the Air Force. I chose the Navy. And I wanted to do all these exciting things. I wanted to fire guns. And I did. And I got to fire, the biggest gun I got to fire was a 20mm Oerlikon But I'd volunteered to do something called internal security, so you do extra weapons training and things like that. And I was trying to get into their minds. Whilst I wasn't a bricklayer or a machine operator or something like that, I wanted them to know that I was a lad who'd done laddish things.
Yeah.
Then I talked about exactly what I just said to you about the things that were affecting me, and then I was poorly, and then it was like a continuous thing. So I went straight from my recovery into the water infection, and it was at the end of that I said, so the cancer was a surprise, and the mental health issue, the stress, I arguably should have known about, because people were telling me and I wasn't listening and I wasn't spotting it. So I'm more than happy to talk to people and say, try and look after your body. Tells you things. In my case, it was quite an extreme thing. The body, my brain switched off. But what you described there about sandbags on your chest, that heavy feeling, and in the military refers to as black dog days. I don't know what the term comes from, black dog days. But it's a form of depression, which can be caused by many different factors. It's not no one person, no two people will have the same trigger points, the same factors. There'll be all sorts of things.
Yeah.
It's a challenge, and the more we talk about it, I hope the more people become aware, and we as a society should do as much as we can to help each other.
Yeah, we should. We definitely should, and I do think. And this isn't a laying blame with him, but it's very generational, isn't it? You can still see those who believe in you just shut up and get on with your lot.
Stiff upper lip.
Exactly. But and it's not everyone, but hopefully, I've got children, a couple of grandkids even, and. Yeah, I hope by the time they're going, they reach the age that I was at. First of all, I hope they don't have to go through anything like it. The chances are they will at some point go through mental health, and whether it's caused by the result of physical illness or outside or just coping mechanisms. Yeah, there's so many things which can result in it. Hopefully, the conversation is so normal, like check in for lumps. Like if you have a cough for longer than 6 weeks, get it checked out. Like something so simple. A friend of mine had a cough for 6 weeks, and he had seen so much about get it checked out. I was like, okay, it's been 6 weeks. I'm going to get it checked out. They gave him allergy tablets, but it might not have been an allergy. It might have been something else.
Right.
And we're not taught. Anyone who's gone through a kind of mental health service or charity, there's quite standard forms. So there's things like, do you go through long periods of feeling down, sad? Do they last longer than a day? You kind of have these, and why aren't these kind of things just check-in points anyway? Why are we not saying, look, hang on, when was the last time you really felt joy?
Yep.
And not happiness, but actual joy of something, because you can feel happy all the time, but that real kind of that taking joy in something is something very kind of unique. When was the last time that happened? But and that could be a trigger of, well, actually, I'm not quite feeling myself. I used to love watching football, depending on your team. Now I don't. And why is that? Is it because you've grown? Is it because you changed? Or actually, is it because you're struggling now to find the happiness in things and the joy and stuff? And until you have that conversation, until you realize there's something wrong, you don't know there's something that you need to look for.
Yeah, and there are watershed moments. So for me, it was I used to like running. I used to like playing football. I had to stop playing football. I played till I was 53. Although I played one more time at 55 was a mistake. But I played at 53. I got an elbow on the temple, knocked me out, but it shattered 2 of the disc in my neck.
Oh God!
And it's quite serious stuff. And so I had to stop playing football, but I still carried on running. And then as I've got a bit older and other things have happened, I can't run. I can't run anymore. I'm 66 years old. I can't run. I walk, at least 2-3 miles every day, and every now and then we do a 5-6 mile walk, and I'll do longer walks because I want to stay fit. I want to stay as fit and healthy as I can, and I enjoy doing things like that. But there'll be another watershed when I can't walk. My dad was the same. He can't walk anywhere these days. He struggles really badly with his age 91. And that for him was a big change when he couldn't walk anymore. And that's going to happen to all of us. So whatever happens, whether we're ill or not, there are other watershed moments as we grow older because we physically or mentally can't do certain things. And I think that talking about it, it's not preparing it. It's not like, and now we snakes and ladders. So throw a six or sugar, down we going. It's not that kind of thing. But we are aware of it, but then we're going to be going to periods of denial, and then we seem to think it's a shock when we can't do it. Well, actually, it was, there's a certain degree of inevitability, as the man says in The Matrix. That's where we're going to be. So enjoy yourself while you can. Do all the things you can while you can. Help your friends and your family, and help them get to where they need to be just by being aware. Which is kind of weird when the third thing that challenged my mental health and well-being was retiring. So I'd planned to retire at the year end. I thought, okay, I had the hurdle or humps of prostate cancer coming up to that was actually diagnosed in the end of September, and then November the 16th, I had this brachytherapy with these things injected into me, and then I retired at the end of the year. My wife said I didn't really retire for another 18 months because I was constantly arranging things and doing things and putting things in the diary. And she said to me, stop organising me and stop organising yourself. You're not in work anymore. Just chill. I found it very difficult to just chill. Yeah. And I think it's one of the reasons why I've entered, doing the voluntary work I am, and I do quite a bit. I'm on top of it, but that was it. Is making sure that I like to be busy. So when we came into lockdown in 2020,
I was going to ask actually, how did that affect?
Yeah, so 18 months after I retired, I did a little bit of part-time work. Skanska came back and asked me to do some little project. They came back to me. They wanted me to help them because it's 10 years. It's coming up for a certain point in one of the contracts I'd worked on, and both the client and the contractor asked me to go back because I was candid and honest and challenging, and that's what they felt they needed.
That's what they needed.
I didn't want to go back into that. So during all the quiet periods, I've got a great sense of humour, and I share humour. So if you follow my Twitter feed, you'll know that I'll bang out anywhere between 10 and 20 cartoons a day, about 3 or 4 puns a day, plus funny stories. Yeah. So I was doing that through lockdown. My mate said, you could keep us all buoyed by sharing funnies. And rather than copy and paste stuff, I actually started typing onto Facebook some of my own funny stories. And one of the lads who I served with many years ago said, if you wrote a book, I'd buy it. Oh, what do you mean, write a book? I never thought about writing a book. So I did. And so in 2020, I wrote 3 books, which was essentially my life told as a series of funny stories. But it also includes the sad things. We included about the mental health challenges, all 3 of them. It included family stuff. So there's some sadness in there, but there's a lot of hilarity. I like a beer. I like a glass of wine. So alcohol has been my undoing from being 13 through to being 66. I'll have a drink and yeah, that's a bit of a laugh. Let's go and do that. And some of the things I did when I was younger, I'm not proud of, which I've captured in the books. But it was a cathartic exercise, and it kind of coincided with this being kind of 18 months on from retiring. So I'd gone through 2019 in a bit of a blur, and then this was like May, June time, 2020, and that was when I calmed down. I stopped trying to do something tomorrow and making sure that next Wednesday I was doing this, that. Just chill. And so writing the books was cathartic in that respect.
But also anyone who's written a book knows that if you can write 3 books, you haven't relaxed at all. You've actually been spending a hell of a lot of time writing your books, because that's very impressive.
But it was fun. It was fun because I was recounting the stories, and originally, despite what my friend said, I'll buy your books. I actually wrote the books for my grandchildren, who are all very young, and there's no way on earth I'm gonna sit down and tell them my stories. Well, they're the age they are. The youngest are 5 now, 6, 2 at 5, 2 at 6, one at 7, and one at 10. They're too young to hear my airy stories as a rascal. So, and I thought by the time they are old enough to listen to them, I might not be able to remember them all, especially given the episode I had. So I just started to document them and talk to friends and who also were there and said, no, it was more like this than that. So I kind of got some input to writing those stories.
Do you know what? That's a lovely thought, isn't it? That you've given them the ability to really know who you are, who you were, and what happened to you. Because I think, I know very little about my grandparents, whether it's stuff I've been told and forgotten, or whether there was a lot unsaid. I know quite a bit about kind of my gran and my mum's side, but again, it's all quite fractured and little bits here and little bits there that come out. And actually, someone who's lived a lot, and actually anyone, but living a life with important messages as well. Because anyone can tell stories of the good times, but to actually say that, educating on, this is some tough times that I had, and I still made it to a ripe old age. It can be quite an inspiring thing as well.
And I honestly thought that I knew that my family would buy a few books, and I thought my friends would buy a few books, and I thought 50, 60, that'd be fine, that. And to carry on selling 3 years on, the books are still selling, and people who've never met me now know more about me, and especially when they come on Twitter and they'll throw some things back and say, "You remember when you did that thing?" And I said, "Like, well, you've clearly read the book." But I'm okay because my style is very open and I'm very transparent, and I know that there have been times in my past where that openness and transparency has been abused, and somebody's tried to hurt me or do something. And I'll always be at risk of that, but I'd rather be open. And because I'm open, I've got good friends. I've got very, very, my best friends are my best friends. The people I trust my life with, my children's lives, my grandchildren's lives. That's how close we are. But I've also got a slightly wider network of really good people. And have I got? Why are those people in my life? I entertain them in terms of my company, their company. We meet, we talk, we chat, we do things together as families and as groups. And I do what I say I'm going to do, and I'll be there when I say I'm going to be there. And if I can't make it, I'll say I won't be able to make it. Not everyone's like that. Some people will want you to feel happy because I'm going to come, but they have no intention of coming.
Yeah.
Or they'll get quite stressed about going because they didn't want to go in the first place. Well, why? They should have just said no, or I don't think I can make that. And then they'll get all stressed and uptight because they're getting down to the witch now. I've got to go now, and then they don't go. And then the excuses come out. Oh, something's happened to the dog, or the car's broken down, and I don't get it. I understand it, but I don't get it. It's not my style. So, but I'm open, and I'm happy to be open, just because that's where I am on my journey. Not everyone's like that.
No, and that's it. And people discover themselves. I was probably, 35, 36 when I had any kind of inkling who I am as a person. I was a very young dad, and my children, my wife, now grandchildren have been everything to me. So I've worked hard, and I've worked consistently. I've taken risks and opportunities to try and better our situation. It's been, and that's where a lot of my kind of stress and anxiety has come from over the years, is because of being that kind of key person, trying to keep. I have two children from young relationship, and 3 with my wife, who 20 years next year we've been married. So but what it meant was that I was working, I was being the parent, but I never grew up. Like I was 17, having first child, and I went from a kid to an adult overnight. And so I was 35 when I realized you slightly, it's like, okay, it's time that I need to find out who I am. Not buying fast cars or anything, just writing books, trying comedy, and now the podcast. So it's still, the midlife crisis is still going. But I suppose what I'm saying is that it takes a long time for people to figure out who they are. And like you saying about how you know exactly why people like you now. And there's a lot of people out there that don't, and they mask this. Oh yeah, of course I'll be there. Yeah, we'll definitely be there. And then as they do, and it might be part of anxiety if it's a behaviour change that's done. They used to come out all the time, that they don't. That's obviously a red flag for someone who's going through something. But some people are just untrustworthy, and it could just be because they don't know who they are. They're not comfortable in themselves, and they're not worthy to be around the others. And I suppose we could philosophize for forever and ever and ever. But we're just about at a time, Buzz, where this is where we go into how we're going to make it better. Now we've covered an awful lot, and obviously this is a subject, or this kind of a range of topics, and your journey is something you've not only spoken a lot about, but you've written about. And I suppose instead of how do we make it better, what advice would you give someone?
Let me answer the question of how can you make it better.
Yeah, go on then. How do we make it better?
Okay, my experience is what I started off by saying is listen to people. If they're your friends, if they're your family, if they're your real friends and your real family, if you detect a change in their behaviour, whatever that change is, it could be that they're being a bit secretive. It could be that they might be a little bit weepy. There's all sorts that you will know what their normal behaviour is, and then when you detect a change in that behaviour, it's having the strength of mind and body to say, "Are you okay?" And if you're not satisfied with the answer that you're given, if you're given the flip off, "Yeah, I'm fine," but you don't think they are, is be brave enough to say, "Come on, let's go and have a cup of tea, or let's go and have a beer, or let's do something. Let's just go and sit. Do you want?" Some people do have a cigarette, and ask the questions, and be there for them. You're already the friend. You're already family, but be there for those important people in your life. That's that's my basis of making it better. Then I'll give you some examples. So without naming names, at one of our we have a weekly breakfast that's delivered to us. We pay for the bacon butty, but the place is hosted by an organisation called the Veterans Food Company and Stockport Council. So they make this thing happen, and we have anywhere between 25 and 50 people rock up every Friday for a bacon butty and a natter. They're all in the community. They've all served in the forces, or they're a widow or a widower of somebody who served in the force, or they're a child. And there are some people who will openly talk about things there that they will not talk about at home. They will not talk about to their family, but they will because they're amongst people who they know the circumstances. And some of it's jocular, some of it's funny. So one of the guys is talking to the guy facing him. He says, "Yeah, I've not had a bath for 3 days." And the military humour is dark. So I immediately jumped in and said, "Well, I wonder what that smell was." So he's 82 and he'd slipped in the bath, and he lives in a masonette above a ground floor set of flats. And he said, "I realised if I fell up here, nobody would know. And then they would find my body in a month's time when the council decided to investigate a smell." So I said, "That's not funny." So I'll retract the smell thing. So what we're going to do about it? And we had a pretty candid discussion, and went through the people who I knew to get him into the housing team to talk about a swap. And he said, "Well, who wants a 2-bed masonette when I want a 1-bedroom flat?" And the guy from the council, who was ex-army, said, "You wouldn't believe the number of one-bed flats we've got available, and the waiting list for two-bed homes. So we'll be able to effect your swap quite quickly.
I mean, how amazing is that? Just because, like, this person has, and in their own mind, they were defeated that this is my lot, and I have to change my behaviour to put myself at the least amount of risk. When actually, one person saying, "Right, let's chat about it. What's the issue? Well, should we go and investigate this? Okay, well, let's make a phone call. Right. Yeah. Okay. Oh, so this is an option. Fantastic. Right. You're moving house and this is going to be better. And also, do you know what? Maybe someone will come in and check in as well. Like, that's how perfect is that?
And it's not just me, by the way. Any one of our group, we've just alone, we've probably had 5 different things that we've changed dramatically because of a small conversation, tucked to one side, cup of tea, talk it through. So it's not me, there's all of us. We're all doing it. Yeah. And I would love, if to make it better, how do you replicate that across the rest of society? We're set up to deal with isolation and loneliness in the ex-military community. You tend to find it's usually older, widowed or single men that are in the predicament. But that's not exclusive, because some of our members who were with us are elderly widows. And one was a very, very young, literally left the army 18 months ago on his flat on his backside, didn't know what to do. And he now has a job and a house. And his world's changed because of some of my colleagues who've took it upon themselves to just help effect some conversations. So
yeah.
Kindness, so how make things better, kindness, awareness, and be prepared to help.
And may I add in, we cannot underestimate the power of the bacon sandwich in that.
No, I think that's a key message. Or a cup of tea,
and especially a cup of tea,
and having a chat. And there's other examples. So for me, making it better is being a community and being able to listen and being able to help and spot changes in people's behaviour.
Yeah.
Maybe it's easier for me saying all that because I'm retired and I've got time on my hands to do that. And maybe there are other people who are more rushed, need to get to a meeting, need to go and do something, need to get somewhere, pick their kids up. Maybe in younger people's lives, it's not as easy because they're dashing about all the time, trying to get from A to B.
It is, and I do understand it, but it doesn't take much to just stop and pause, does it? And we could all probably do it just a little bit. If everyone did it just a little bit more, it doesn't have to be huge. You don't have to change your whole life to save the planet. Just noticing one thing from one person and asking one question, actually, and sticking the kettle on could mean a lot to a person. And that's all it is, isn't it? We can't change the world, but we can change one person's world.
We can. In our group, we have probably 5 or 6 people. Their Saturday night, as a young person might work Saturday night, their Saturday night is a Friday morning in the produce hall in a marketplace, having a cup of tea and a bacon butty with like-minded people. That's the highlight of their week. I personally think that's pretty sad that they've not got that other, the strength of their community or the strength of the family or the strength of friends around them. So,
yeah, it is. It's sad. It's unfortunate, and there's a lot of it around. But I mean, you inspired me, Moz, because I am one of those people who I harp on about mental health. I promote people talking. I promote everything. But do you know what? Actually, when was the last time I did stop and say to someone, "Do you know what? I've noticed that maybe you're not quite yourself." Like I throw out the look. Can I help? I do try, but do I really? I know I've said it before in this podcast that sometimes I think I am a good person because I think I should look like I'm a good person, or because I want to be a good person, not necessarily because I am. And I will put out there to people. I would always advise, those who can do, those who can't teach, right? I would always tell people how they should be with other people. And I do, if I notice someone said, like, I'm stressed, I'm like, what can I do to help? But that's the person that wants to fix it. And actually, it's a case of talk to me. I don't need to fix you. I can't fix your life. What I can do is listen, and that's what I need to do more of.
Don't underestimate the power of active listening.
Yeah.
Then you need to make choices. You have options as whether you do something about it, whether what you've heard you think I'll let them get on with that, or whether you do something about it. And I have to say, my style is, if I can do something about it, I will. So I'm happy to do my kind of low key interventions, and sometimes that's just as simple as somebody's lonely, and so just come out. We have a. I like a drink. I said that a couple of times already. So we have a small group of veterans who meet for a beer, second Saturday of the month in a pub, and that's what we go there for. We got a few beers, bit of a banter. The landlady loves us being in there, so she always sorts us out some chip butties, and it becomes kind of a symbiotic relationship because we're buying more beer and we're all happy. And come along for a beer. So some people have joined the group, and now it's like it's a ringed date on their diary to make sure they're there for the second Saturday, because it should come in as banter. Some of it's abusive. It's in a military sense. It's not, but it's just taking the mickey out of people, and it just breaks down some of the barriers.
Yeah, it doesn't, and hopefully that leads to people talk, being in safe spaces and comfortable and helping.
Safe spaces.
This has been. I love this, and I'm always the first, like I said, to talk about mental health, and I think that you're a very special guy. I mean, this is the first real interaction outside of social media and messaging and chatting about this, and I'm blown away really with kind of your outlook and the fact it comes from personal experience. And I think what I get a lot from this podcast is people being able to relate, and the more serious topics get the most interaction because people are listening about people talking when quite often they don't feel like they can. So Jay and Gay from the PTSD episode, the most listened to the extent where that was months ago now, and someone contacted me and said, look, an employee of mine has come to me, he has PTSD. They'd heard the episode and said, I know there was links at the end, is there any more? So I sent them. And whilst that is obviously one form of kind of mental health and a very severe kind, knowing sometimes just listening to two people talk openly about mental health is almost it's like someone else, a third person could be listening and feeling like they're part of the conversation because it resonates with them. They understand, oh, okay, I've been through that. Oh, okay, other people are going through it. That's I know it's been an absolutely beautiful conversation, and I really appreciate kind of your honesty. And I mean, I think it's about time. You mentioned the books. Tell us about the books. Where can we find them?
So I've got my Amazon author page. It's very simple, and it just lists 6 books. So my first 3 books were memoirs. It's my life told through funny stories. Or some are not so funny, but the candid stories. And as a result of people outside of my circle of family and friends buying the books, I'd always had a kind of what if story in my head, which I challenge people at different times. What if you turn the tap on and no water came out the tap, and you flick the switch and there was no electricity on because that wasn't available anymore because there'd been an event or events that led to something that was a disaster. So I wrote Quest, and Quest is a survival story. Less than 2% of the world's population are left. No one's making anything. People are only surviving by living off what's there. And what do you do about it? So it's actually a survival story of a small group of people who go from A to B. And then it was very serious. And so my style in life is humour. I tell jokes, I share funnies. So I wrote a dark comedy thriller called Revenge, which is kind of our genre of older veterans who've got hidden skills, and somebody stumbles into a gang turf war in Greater Manchester, and one thing leads to another, and people start dying, and then they take revenge, and everyone takes revenge until there's lots of guns and bombs going off. And then that went down quite well. So I wrote another comedy thriller, dark comedy thriller called The Accidental Assassin, and that's set locally in Stockport and surrounding South Manchester. And it's about a hapless loser who has an accident and comes to the attention of a ruthless serial killer on a murder spree, and off it goes. Quite fast paced. Revenge has got some brutal action and some serious dialogue. The Accidental Assassin is fast paced. You can see what's kind of where it's going, maybe not. And Quest is more serious about how the hell do you survive when you've got nothing and you want a safe place to live.
Love it. Absolutely love it. Okay. And that's the Amazon page, and that's under Moz Perkins, Maurice Perkins.
It's under my Maurice Perkins, so it's Maurice Perkins, Perkins.
Fantastic.
I'll send you the link and you can.
Yeah, the link will definitely be in the bio. And before we started this as well, you were talking about a couple of other, but so obviously you're part of we're journeying with Project Comedy and the wider thing, which is Project
Recce.
Recce.
So Recce it's short for reconnaissance, and so Project Recce is a charity that helps ex-service people transition into the construction sector. Because I spent the last kind of 12 years of my career working in the construction sector, primarily infrastructure, so highways, bridges, bridges, and then I moved into a kind of a wider construction sense of buildings as well. So Project Recce, I've been able to link a number of companies I used to work for with Project Recce. And every 6 weeks, we take on a cadre of people on something called Pathway to Construction. And we've got a 93% success rate of people ending up in sustainable employment as a result of the pathways, which is good fun. And I work with the Breakfast Club, the Royal Naval Association, and in Stockport we've got our own umbrella organisation. We've got 8,000 veterans who live in Stockport. And if you then add widowers and children to that mix, you're up somewhere near 22,000 people in Stockport in the community. So we do quite a lot of things, breakfasts and other stuff. And I write a little bit, so I've written my books and I write for a local magazine. And just this morning, I was asked to go and read one of my articles to a place called Waltham House. And they have a small group of volunteers who run an audio service for about 160 clients, and they'll share the news, various sort of things, and I was part of the creative content today and just spoke about my books a little bit and some things I'm doing, about when I used to run and my humbling experience of running in a Commonwealth Games qualifying race, which was a 5 mile course in Rochdale, 3 laps, and the elite runners lapped me at the end of my second lap, and they were running to a finish, and I had another 5 miles to and it led to a period of reflection that it wasn't me against them, it was me against me, my race. They were doing something else. We just happened to be on the same course at the same time. But there was a moral there, and the moral was I had my own race, and I should have concentrated on my own race, not anybody else. It was my development, not their development.
And that is a fantastic place to leave it. Anyone who listens knows that I always end a beautiful sentiment by over talking, and I'm not. I'm going to leave that. This has been great, and I hope if people just take the fact they need to listen, I can't wait to read the books. And also, I love this whole. There's a moment you retired and you just got more busy. Like you just listed all these things you're doing, and I was like, yeah, that's not someone who's retired. That's someone who just found, more fulfilling work. But no, you're absolutely true, gent, and it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on. Good luck with the books. Good luck with all the good work you're doing. Good luck with Project Recce. Good luck with knowing Jay Saunders, because that's difficult enough in itself. Good luck, in yourself as well, in your own health, both mentally and physically. Thank you for being so open. and sharing with us. It's been beautiful.
You're
And
welcome.
right, all there is for me to say is that thank you, everyone that's listened. Do check out Moz's work. Contact, if you've got any questions, please do get in contact. I'll be sharing all of Moz's links and Twitters and everything in the bio. Yeah, if anything you've heard is something you need to talk about or hear about or listen about, then just let us know. But all there is for me to say goodbye and thank you. So it's goodbye from me, and it's goodbye from Moz. Say goodbye, Moz.
Thank you very much, and goodbye.